Okay, so I'm just going to go through these one by one. I'd recommend getting a pen or pencil or something to write with and take notes while I'm reading this, because if not, you're going to have to come back and listen to my annoying voice again. So I'm just going to go through these one by one, pause it if you need to get something. Okay, so I'm assuming you have something now. So number 64, we're starting with 64. I did number 64 to 126. So 64 says, it's the answer to what was dual monarchy and with what country is it closely associated. I had one guy, Francis Joseph, probably Joseph, but looks like Joseph, ruled both Austria and Hungary. Okay, so 65, probably read that. Express on Russian cultures in Russia. 66, pretty good. 67, he was prime minister, moved up to chancellor. 68, oh my god, one sec. Wait. Oh, Napoleon. Okay, yeah, wait, so that's a question about Napoleon. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. Napoleon declared war on Russia. So basically, Bismarck, he had his little M's dispatch that basically, what happened was he kind of edited what happened during a meeting between him and a couple other bigwigs, like country leaders, and he kind of edited, like there were notes being taken on it, and pretty much he said, all right, there are certain, like there was a record of it. All right, sorry, I'm not communicating effectively. Basically, there was a record of a meeting between a bunch of important people, between countries, and he edited what supposedly happened. And so he basically made it look like another country, Austria, I think, Prussia. He made it look like the leader of Prussia said something bad about the Frenchmen. So that pissed off Napoleon. Napoleon declared war. 69, they were voted in by the men in the country, specifically the men, not women. There was only men could vote. 70, the Kulturkampf was the battle for civilization, that's its direct meaning, and it was an attempt for, it was Stalin's attempt. It was basically Stalin's attempt to make Catholics more loyal to the state. That was part of his Great Purge, and during the Great Purge, they just said, all right, we're going to get rid of anything that is old and holding our society back, and religion was one of them. Not just Catholicism, not just, I don't really think they had Protestantism at that point, but pretty much any, like they didn't like Buddhism, they didn't really like any religion. I don't think they had much Islam in Russia at that point, but the two biggest religions they had problems with were probably Catholicism and Buddhism at that point. So, yeah, so 71, what is 71? He wanted territory and knew he would win because France was his ally. So Camille Cavour, he wanted to provoke a war between Sardinia and Austria because I think he was the leader of Austria, and he wanted a lot of territory that Sardinia had, and so they were allies with France, and France was some big shit at that point. So they said, all right, they had a deal with France where if Austria got in a war, France would come in and help them. So he knew if he declared war with Austria, if he provoked a war somehow, that France would hop in and help, and everything would be good for them, and they would get Sardinia. 72. Sorry, I have allergies are bad. Okay, so 72. What does that mean? Who are the two countries involved? Okay, Austria and Hungary were the two countries involved in the dual monarchy, and obviously the form of government was a monarchy. 72. 73, what is 73? Why did Russian czars resist the call for modernization? Okay, how did they? Or wait, why? Shit. Okay, so how they did it was why they did it was because they wanted to stay in charge. For some reason I thought how they did it. But why they did it, I'm sure it was because they wanted to stay in charge. They didn't want their people to become self-sufficient. They wanted it to stay they didn't want it, they didn't want to hold their society back just for the sake of holding it back. They just wanted to keep the people as oppressed as possible because at that point they had absolute power. So yeah, I mean it makes sense if you're in power, and you have that mindset. And how they did it, it's right here. They cracked down. They had strict censorship. They bolstered the church, which kind of at that point, and probably still now actually, it exploited people for their money. So they were able to use the church actually a lot to get money. So it's kind of funny that he wanted the Catholics. Anyway. They exiled liberals, which were the people who wanted they were kind of, progressive. Like they were trying to move forward, let's see. What is that? I'm trying to get the thing. Okay, yeah, persecuted non-Russian groups. So that means basically they said, all right, we're only going to have one language. You can't be, Jewish. You can't be, they had a lot of various European groups of people in their country at that point. So they pretty much said, all right, we're only going to speak Russian language, we're only going to go with our traditions, no other traditions, especially Judaism. They had a lot of problems with Judaism. Let's see, 74. What the fuck? Wait a minute. Bloody Sunday. Okay, the question's about Bloody Sunday. So that was the day when there was a peaceful protest in Russia, I think. Oh yeah, it is Russian. And I think Stalin was in control at that point. And so, basically, Bloody Sunday was a peaceful protest by the church, the Russian Orthodox Church. They wanted the ways to change. They wanted the government to, I don't really know exactly what they're protesting for. I think they wanted a new form of government. They wanted less absolute monarchy. They wanted less cruel, dictators and all that crap that was going on at that point. So they had a little peaceful protest. There were a lot of violent protests at that point, but they said, all right, we're going to have peaceful protests. And the Russian authorities, they were pretty used to violent protests. And so when they heard there was a protest, they're like, all right, they told Stalin sent a bunch of soldiers, and he basically slaughtered a couple thousand people who were peacefully protesting. And so that was pretty notorious. That sparked a lot of stuff after that. Let's see. So, 75. Tsar gained support. I'm assuming you know the questions about the October Manifest. So, Tsar, as a result of that, he gained the support of a lot of moderates, and that weakened the... Okay, yeah, I thought that's it. The revolutions. Basically, the people, the radicals and the revolutions who wanted like a bunch of change. So what happened with the October Manifest was there were a lot of people rioting, there was a lot of crap going on. It was just, he said, all right, enough is enough. And so he said, all right, we're coming out with this thing called the October Manifest. It's going to give you a bunch of freedoms to do, you're going to have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of whatever, And it had a lot of crap in it. And basically, it was not as good as he made it sound. Like, he made a bunch of promises that he didn't keep. And so it says very limited freedom there. But it originally, like when he initially did it, he gained a lot of support for it because people liked it, because people liked the thought of it, and they thought they were a lot more optimistic than they should have been about it. Because really he was just doing it to gain a little support. He just said, a little more freedom and I'll get a lot more support, so it'll be a good return on investment. I might be over-explaining these, so I might just go through them a little quicker. I just feel like you'll do better on the test if you actually understand what happened. So the Reform Act, 76. 77, high tariffs on imported grain. 78, it allowed Catholics to vote and hold office. 79, the Labor Party, is that just... Yeah, the Labor Party. 80, the Tories. 81, socialists and union members. Yeah, all right, that makes sense. 82, Irish nationalist leader. He was an Irish nationalist leader who sparked movement for Irish independence. Damn. Okay, wait. 83, where am I? Okay, 83. I'm trying to read and look at the iPad at the same time. So, 83, put him in charge of Mexico, hoping to turn Mexico into a country loyal to France. So basically, that might be a little confusing. Basically, he said, all right, you're going to be in charge of Mexico, and you're going to make Mexico loyal to us. So then Mexico is right next to the U.S. That might help us invade the U.S. in the future. That would be very helpful if Mexico were on our side. So that's what he did there. So 84, right to earn their own earnings, that sounds stupid, earn their own money. Let's see. 85, General George's, oh my god, it's like Bollinger, B-O-U, it's like really, I think it's B-O-U, L-I-N-G-E-R. I might be wrong there, but General Bollinger. 86, holy shit. Owned a newspaper called Liberator. That's who he was. He was a newspaper owner, and what he did was he pushed to end slavery. 87, Sierra Leone. 88, it was the only way to end the slave trade. 89, the discovery of gold and diamonds in the Boer lands. And the Boers and the Irish, the British. The British were the ones who fought. 90, one sec. What the hell? Oh yeah, it's some weird, like, Arabian name. One sec. I need to read. The Wahhabi. W-A-H-H. You can't really read that. W-A-H-H-A-B-I. And then movement. The Wahhabi movement. That's some religious movement for Islam. And they basically said we want to go back to our old traditions. 91. It gave them a chance to gain control of the Bosporus and Dardanelles Straits, which would give them access to the Mediterranean Sea, which is pretty valuable for trade, especially trade. Maybe a little bit strategic for war, but mostly good for trade. 92, oil. 93, religious anger about things the British and East India Company did. That might need a little bit of elaboration. Basically, a lot of, I remember one specific thing was the Sepoy Rebellion. The Sepoys were a group of people, and they were largely Hindus and Muslims. They were kind of divided, but they did a lot of things, basically. Like, a lot of things happened to them. There were certain military groups, and they had, I remember the biggest thing that they were pissed about was at one point the British company gave them guns, and they would have, like, there was this weird thing where they would, like, they had to, like, bite something off every time, like, before they take a shot, and that thing had to have, like, cow fat on it or something. It was something really weird. And so Hindus, they have their sacred cows, and cows are, like, forbidden to Muslims, something like that, something weird like that. And so basically they got all pissed, and so they revolted because, yeah, the sacred cows. And I think at one point there was also pig fat, so, yeah. 94, loss of life, slaughtering of innocent, unarmed Indians, Indian directly ruled by Britain. Okay, yeah, so Britain's like, all right, yeah, we control India now, and they pretty much exploited as much as they could. 95, Ethiopia. 96, Britain. 97, they were very generous and kind, but treated them like children in need of guidance. They said, look, these poor people, they've really had as much, like, they've had all this shit going on, and they really just need our help. We need to help them out of this. But they also said, look, it's pretty obvious they can't really care for themselves, so they kind of treat them like children. In 1885, it was in 1885, and it called for peaceful protests in favor of democracy. 99, Hong Kong. 100, China was getting ruined by everyone, and its people wanted to modernize. 101, the Chinese government didn't rally behind it. 102, Germany was motivated to gain African territory to compete with other European nations to pressure its nationalism. Okay, yes, that pretty much, to preserve its nationalism, my bad. Because basically they didn't want to be outdone by any of the other European nations. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that question correctly. 103, it was outraged by Germany's invasion of Belgium. 104, wanted to defend Slavic allies in Serbia, also allies with France. 105, discovery of the Zimmerman Note. 106, both sides wanted to protect armies from enemy fire. 107, I'm going to get this right. 107, German note to Mexico proposing a deal in which Mexico allied with Germany. In return, Germany would help Mexico regain territory it lost to the U.S., like specifically Texas, I think New Mexico, maybe Oklahoma, and I think actually California at one point they lost to the U.S. You probably don't need to know that. 108, it stopped ships carrying food, which was illegal. So in wartime, I think this is the one about the blockade. In wartime, basically, you're really never allowed to stop people's ships unless, like, no matter what they're carrying, unless it's wartime. If it's wartime, you're allowed to stop them if they have guns, but you have to let them go if they have things like food or things that can't harm you. So even in wartime, it's illegal to stop ships for most reasons. So they stopped ships that had food in them, although they were supplying food for the enemy, for the people fighting, the ship blockade was fighting. I think the ship blockade was British. Basically, they were giving food to the enemies of the British, but that's pretty technically illegal to stop ships, even if they're giving food to your enemy, because it's food. So it's not. If they're giving guns, then yeah, but no. 109, Treaty of Versailles. 110, take over current Russian government. 111, George Clemenceau. 112, explosion of organized crime and illegal bars. 113, he discovered penicillin. 114, big package of economic and social programs to try and end the Great Depression. It failed. 115, only language allowed was Russian. Stamped out religion, censorship, he pretty much censored anything that was going on, and propaganda. So I think that was how he oppresses people. So they basically did a lot of Russification. They said, all right, we're only going to have our ways. And so for them, any religion was bad, not just what we would think of as religion, but any religion. So that made, that oppressed a lot of people. And, censorship is, differing political views, he stamped them out. Anyone who had a different language, which is right there. So no one else's ways. Pretty much just stick to their own traditions, but don't keep any of the traditions that are too old. So, yeah. It was rich in coal, 116. 117, the Dawes plan, D-A-W-E-S. 118, psychoanalysis. Sigmund Freud is pretty much